Well, hi folks, welcome to this session. With me is John Mannion. My name is Greg Harding. I'm the pastor of Meadows Uniting Church and also chaplain to the Meadows Football Club. And John, you're CEO of Breakthrough Mental Health Research?
That's right, yes. Well, actually, Executive Director.
Executive Director?
Yes, yeah. Okay. And I live in Meadows.
John, can you tell us a little bit about what your company does?
Yeah, so Breakthrough is a mental health research foundation. It's a not-for-profit charity, and we're based here in South Australia, although we're a national charity. And our aim and objective really is to support and invest into mental health research, really to drill into asking the questions of why mental health issues occur, what we can actually do about it at earlier interventions, and really getting clear evidence to support all the sort of changes we want to put into place, because we know that sort of the mental health statistics, Greg, are really challenging at the moment, and we know that we've got a deterioration in suicide rates, so we now lose 9 Australians every day to suicide, of which 7 of those are men. And we know that 45% of all mental health presentations happen before the age of 16. So we really need to be looking at ways in which we're changing the way in which we put interventions into place, having more knowledge and awareness about mental health, and normalising that mental health conversation. So that's what our foundation does, and we support all 3 universities here in South Australia with their research.
Okay, and you also have a contract with SANFL, is that right?
Yeah, we've got a partnership with SANFL, Adelaide Footy League, and for half of the City Adelaide Crows. And the reason to have that partnership really was about that connectivity with the community. So we know that sports has a very, very strong role to play in lots of communities, especially in our country communities. Usually that centre point of people coming together gives us a great sense of belonging and a sense of purpose to be part of that club. But sports also a really positive vehicle for mental health. So our aim and objective to have the partnership across the sporting codes was that this gave us an opportunity to sort of have the conversation across all sporting community groups. And again, that whole point about if we had people that know the skills and know the things to look out for when someone's becoming unwell, or we're aware of those, and then connecting with people where we feel safe, where we can actually raise our hand, where we don't have the stigma and discrimination that's aligned often with mental health challenges, to have that safe conversation. We know promoting that environment actually has a positive effect for people. So the sooner we can break down that stigma, the sooner people ask for help, the quicker and the better interventions it is for everybody.
Yeah, and you can train some people up in some local clubs.
Yeah. So we have been rolling out a program across all the footy communities, and also cricket, netball, baseball, and we're hopefully starting with bowl, so watch out the night owls here in Meadows. What we've been rolling out is the mental health first aid training program. So we know that everyone will know what to do for CPR for someone having a heart attack, someone collapsing, having chest pain, someone choking. But would you know what to do if someone had a mental health problem? So if they're in a crisis with anxiety or with depression, or with drug and substance use, or even experience psychosis, would you know what to do? And the mental health first aid training program actually gives you the CPR for mental health. It teaches people the things to look out for and those crisis interventions that every one of us can put into place very, very quickly. It's a 2-day program. As part of our rollout across the sporting community, we're looking at having 2 ambassadors in every sporting club trained in mental health first aid, so that everyone would know there's someone they can go to and have that safe conversation. And part of that rollout is that we're trying to make that training free for people, because this has been a difficult year for a lot of people with bushfires and also with COVID, and local sporting clubs are struggling to obviously keep themselves afloat. So we don't want them to be saying, oh, we know this training is really important, but we can't afford it. So we've looked at a range of ways in which we've actually been able to fund that. So in chatting to Greg to try and get 2 members of the Bulldogs to come and be mental health trained. So we've got a program taking place over in January this year. So we've got those dates, and Greg will be able to share those with you.
You mentioned a bit of what's happened this year, being 2020. People out there are probably thinking, I've never seen a year like this ever in their lives. And it started with bushfires, which were pretty catastrophic in lots of parts of Australia. And then COVID-19 hit, which nobody really saw coming. And I've just seen around that people have been hitting stress levels that kind of creep up on them. And I know it's also been the case for me at certain times. I find myself getting grumpy and thinking, why am I grumpy? And it's, people have been locked down. Some people have lost jobs. Lots of people have lost jobs. Lots of stresses about that. And so I imagine there's been a spike in mental health issues. So the place we want to start today is just to look at looking after yourself. I mean, we can do a whole lot of different sessions about spotting out in other people and looking after other people, but looking after yourself is probably the place to start. So, would you like to just speak to that for a little while?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Greg's right. We have seen that this has been the year that none of us will ever forget, and the impact that's had on our mental health and well-being across all age ranges has been a real challenge. And what we've wanted to look at really is ways in which we can perhaps give some simple coping strategies to actually help people. So Professor Mike Kyrgios from Flinders University came up with a concept called streams, and what it looked at was how do we look after ourselves and our family during this period of time. So the S stood for that social networking. So we've gone through a period of time where we've been asked to be, socially distancing and keep our 1.5 and protect ourselves from a physical perspective. But that didn't say that we should then disconnect from people socially. So that social networking is, trying to keep still in touch with people, trying to make sure, if you're concerned about someone, make that phone call, send that text message, send that email. You never know how powerful that actually might be for somebody. Also, we're spending a lot of time with our closer family. So the T stands for time out, and really that's about learning ways to actually give yourself permission to have time away from your loved one, or the kids, or everyone else, where it's actually all been in a really closed community. So building in time out to actually do things that are really positive for yourself. The R then links nicely into the time out, because that's then about relaxation. So how do we build in relaxation and give ourselves permission to actually stop? Because the fear and the risk is, especially when we were going through a lot of our working from home, we just went from Zoom call to Zoom call to Zoom call and didn't actually build those breaks in. So how do you build in relaxation? Going out for that walk, etc. Doing yoga, taking place in mindfulness, reconnecting perhaps back with the church, etc. Then when we look at the A, that's looking at what we refer to as alternative thinking. And part of that was the fact that when a crisis is taking place, we often then overload our senses with lots of news, and then we get a lot of negatives, and we can catastrophize, and that can actually build up. So how do we try and change the way in which we problem solve some of our thinking, and maybe reduce the amount of information that's coming in?
Including social media?
Including social media. Yeah. So how do you get the balance of those two? And then the final letter then stands for M, and this is about mindfulness. But this isn't actually about the mindfulness from a relaxation perspective. This is actually being mindful of other people. So am I aware that what impact my behaviour might have on other people? So if I'm grumpy, as you said, Greg, how's Karen going to feel when you're not as responsive as you normally would be? So how do we look at ways in which we're mindful of our actions and how we actually talk to people, how we're respectful for people? So the streams concept is all around, one, being aware of what's actually happening to us, but also then reaching out to other people and saying, are you okay? Yeah. Ask that question a second time, because the first time you ask it, we all say, yeah, we're fine. Yeah, second question, we know, and it starts that next conversation. But also, if you're going to have that conversation with someone, make sure you've actually got the time and opportunity to listen fully to somebody. And if somebody opens up to you, it's a really, really powerful thing, because you made them feel safe. So that's a wonderful thing for us to be able to do. But it's about then how do we continue and support each other as a local community. So Meadows is a beautiful place to live. It's a very busy place. Everyone has very, very busy lives. But there's lots of different touch points, and that smile as you walk past someone in the street, that hello, how you doing, they're really powerful, because you don't actually know what's happening in someone's life, and you might be the only person that person's spoken to today, and that could be really powerful.
So look, we'll have a summary of those key points you'll find below the post there. John, there's lots of areas we can touch on with mental health. Is it one thing that intrigues me is it appears to affect men more than women. Is that the case or not?
Not necessarily the case. No, different areas and different impacts impact every one of us on an individual basis. We know from a suicide perspective we've got higher risk for the population of men, but because we're still aligned with a whole range of masculinity and stigma and discrimination, and putting our hand up is that seen a sign of weakness. But we also know that you get higher presentations for women with illnesses such as depression and anxiety. And then we know from our data sets, we know, like in an eating disorders arena, we've actually, during COVID, we've seen about a 40% increase of eating disorder presentations to our services. And historically, people felt that was a female illness. We're actually seeing a high percentage now of young men coming through eating disorder services. So mental illness doesn't care who you are, what your background is, etc. It can impact any one of us. And with 1 in 5 of us at the moment experiencing it just this year, we need to look after each other.
Mm. So, John, how can people support breakthrough mental health research?
Yep. So as mentioned right at the start, we're a not-for-profit charity, so we're very reliant on donations and support. But there's different ways in which you can do that. So you can take part in your own fundraising campaign for us. So this weekend we've actually got the Breakthrough Alternative to City to Bay taking place, which we were doing along the coast. It's a 12-kilometre walk, and you'll see me being dragged along by my dog Ted, which you might have seen us walking around the town.
I could do.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm a definite walker and a talker. Running days are over. But then also from a community perspective, we do the community football round that takes place, and we do normally takes place middle of the season. That's a day where many clubs in South Australia take part in the breakthrough round, and we all raise the sort of profile on mental health and awareness. Last year we had 65 clubs take part just in the footy leagues, and the previous year we had 82, and that just goes to show the impact that COVID had, because a lot of leagues actually didn't take place. But the fact that 65 clubs all managed to take part all started to break down the stigma, discrimination, normalise the conversation. And I loved it. I went to one football club and I was just about to leave, and they had me waiting. And when they turned around to me and they said, "Oh, sorry for keeping you waiting." They said, "But you've given us permission to talk today, so we're going to talk." And I thought that was very, very powerful. That this was, a footy club in the northern suburbs really wanting to sort of normalise that everyday conversation and make it feel safe, because it's very difficult sometimes for people to own up if they're struggling with their mental health. So. So there's lots of different ways to get involved. You can obviously follow us online as well, and go onto our website and follow us on our social media channels as well. Lots of different ways. Great.
Oh, thanks, John. We'll post a link to your website on under this post here, and I encourage you people to get on board and to support that. But also, stay tuned, because we are talking about it around the local football committee at the moment, and hoping to do a breakthrough round next season. So
that'd be superb. We look forward to it. I want our far to come and walk and talk.
That's right. Yeah. John, thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.
Everybody out there, look after yourself. That's our key message today. And find the things that float your boat and that recharge you and bring you back into a positive mindset. Thanks for joining us.
Right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.